Should we get into pump and iron?
Yes, let's do it.
We talk about, maybe a brief background on, your, we did on the last one for the people who are tuning in about, your slow transition from being a cardio bunny to lifting weights. We probably didn't talk about the mistakes that you made in the beginning. And I think you probably had good advice because you were, willing to listen to older people, unlike a lot of young bros in the gym. But maybe it'd be good to share, how, your biggest mistakes in the beginning and also what cued you into realizing that these were mistakes. Because a lot of times people perpetuate mistakes because they feel that they're intuitive and it just makes sense to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like there's so many mistakes I made, and even to this day, I'm still like, I think one thing I'll caveat with this is like, this is a learning process that takes years or even decades to really like get to know not only the rules of weightlifting, but also the rules of your own body. Because everybody's different, right? Like, so what works for you, whether it's rep range or anything, any principle that you apply, might not work for another person, but what works for another person might not work for you. So I've realized that it's like very much an experimentation and really going into your body thing. But from a common, we slightly talked about this last time, but the first biggest mistake I made was applying the principles of cardio to weightlifting.
Oh yeah.
Meaning like I was chasing fatigue and really high rep ranges, like just doing tons of exercises, spending like 2 hours trying to lift and like really trying to get to that fatigue state that you feel after cardio. And there's this beautiful chart. I don't have it right now, but that shows kind of like there is such thing as overtraining a muscle in a session where, it's actually diminishing returns. And so I was just reluctant to like accept that, acknowledge that, or anything, because like when you're in that cardio mindset, or more is better mindset, you're stubborn about it and you think that's the more is better. But right. That was one big lesson I learned. Just like not doing really, really crazy, like high fatigue workouts, because one, like not only is that less effective, but it also prevents you from recovering well. Yep. So then like you're less motivated to go to the gym, and like you're forcing yourself to go to the gym when your muscles are super sore. So then you're working out a sore muscle. So then like, is that really like worth your time?
Right. It's a terrible feedback loop. And, what I tell people in the group, fitness challenge that I'm leading at the moment, or different people I might be working with one-on-one, is, in order to have a sustainable system, and this applies to diet as well, the juice needs to be worth the squeeze, like more times than not. Otherwise, most people will quit. And this is a big thing that happens when people get into lifting and they're dedicated to it. Because the people who aren't dedicated, they're not overtraining, because you show up once a week, you're not really going to get that much better. But at the same time, every additional unit of effort for the lazy person tends to result in something good. And so, most advice that you hear, especially like when we were in high school, wasn't niche targeted to type A personalities. It's really targeted towards type B personalities, which is never miss a session, be dedicated. And then people also draw upon media images. They'll see Rocky training, and they'll see, they'll watch like, what was that hockey movie, Miracle, where they just skate and skate and skate and skate. And the most obvious conclusion that you would come to is more is better. But then when you apply the more is better philosophy to training, you'll realize that you'll hit a plateau very soon. You won't really get that much better. You'll convince yourself that it's your genetics, because you'll see other people who aren't trying quite as hard as you who have better results.
Yeah.
You think, well, I'm doing everything I can. And the reality is, for most people, once they're in a routine and they're training, their legs, if they're bros, they're also training their legs. A lot of times less is more. And I'm not saying that as a hyperbole or a cliche statement. Like, really, if you want to get better, you need to not train too much, and you need to know what that what that threshold is where you're not getting anything out of that workout, save that effort for some time where you might get something out of it. And that will keep you motivated to stay on your fitness journey rather than give up and say it's too hard. Of course, most people, they'll maybe ignore fitness for 6 months out of the year and then decide, summer's coming up, I need to get in shape. And then they think that they can make up for lost time by overtraining, and your body doesn't work like that either.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, it's honestly a very hard thing for people to accept, because I think especially in America, the culture is built around like hard work. And you're valued around like, hard work is valued. Like you're working around the clock is like considered good. Working, having an easier day or session or whatever is not considered like you're lazy technically, according to like the American value system. Right. So like I grew up with that value system myself. So like embracing the idea that like, I don't have to like kill myself in a workout it was almost like an identity value system change adjustment that I had to make, and letting go of that, my attachment to that, and being more open to just doing less and seeing the results. But ultimately I think it gets easier once you see the results. I think like, at first it's like hard to believe, but then, when you give yourself like maybe a month or 6 weeks to try the new approach and you actually see the results, then it makes you want to keep going this way. And yeah,
totally. Yeah. I was talking to, one of my best friends from college who actually played 7 years in the major leagues. And, he's seen my physical transformation over the last several years. He probably thinks I'm on steroids. He tells me I'm on steroids all the time because we trained together in college, and he knew what I looked like with my shirt off in college, and he knows what I look like with my shirt off now. And, I'm 15 years older or whatever than I was, as a sophomore in college. And I don't work out as much as we did when I was in school, yet I've been able to, make improvements that his Major League Baseball teammates really couldn't make. And so, knowing that I'm not a genetic specimen, seeing the gains that I've made, he's like, "Well, you're on steroids. Just tell me you're on steroids." And the reality was, like, he called me a couple of weeks ago. He's like, "Man, I'm not feeling good. Should I just like push through it?" And because he recognizes that I pay very close attention to what works and what doesn't. And I asked him a series of questions. I was like, "Well, how long have you not been feeling good for? Have you not been feeling good for a day? Have you not been feeling good for several days?" It's like, "Oh, like all week. My body's just not been good." Like, "Well, when was the last time you took a light week?" And he said, "Oh man, it's been like weeks or months." I was like, "Well, yeah, you need to like take a down week." He's like, "Well, what should I do? Should I do it hard? Like, just do what your body tells you to do. Like, if you don't want to run fast, just jog, just do anything, or nothing. Like, just do what you feel like doing, because your body needs to rest. And realistically, fitness is a long game. Like unless you have like really, really elite genetics, you are not going to, become Brad Pitt in Fight Club in 6 months. And you're not going to look like, Roy Jones Jr. when he was a professional fighter, probably ever, but, certainly not before like several years of training. And so, people don't realize like the only way you get there is by kind of getting like a few percent better every month, or, 1% better every month, realistically towards the end. And the only way you're going to get 1% better every month is if you actually rest, not just between workouts, but between sets, right? I know you tweeted earlier today that you took your time working out. You did like 2-3 minutes in between sets. I always take that much time, if not more. And you realize you can lift heavier weights when you take more time in between sets.
Yeah.
When you lift heavier weights, your body grows muscle better.
Yeah.
Typically.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a big I've been exploring with more of like how much rest I want to take, and how much not, or how quickly I want to go. I mean, like, there's some people who swear by like the shorter rest periods and making it almost like a cardio / weight training session, I guess. But I've been discovering that there's a sweet spot for me. I think it's usually like 45 seconds to like 1.5 minutes at most.
That's still a real short rest period.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also just kind of get impatient.
I see.
Cause like, yeah, I think like I like to be in and out by like an hour, usually, if maybe an hour and 15. So like if it takes longer, I don't mind it. If I like the gym, if I like the environment, but if I don't, then I'm just like, all right, let's just get this done. But yeah, like I think like now I'm a little bit more, now that like, for example, this week I tried a little bit longer rest periods, and I really like it because not only does your like you lift more, but like the focus is also there more because
Yes.
you rest for so long, and so by the time you come back to the next set, you're just like everything's like there and ready to go. Whereas like with the shorter rest periods, you're like you're kind of recovering, but you're kind of ready to do the next set, and so it feels a little bit rushed. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about with the 8-week challenge group that we have going, that kicked off yesterday. Is, for the training plan that my master class and this group challenge is based around, is the training plan that I did to get the physique that you see on my Twitter profile. And the way I could do it well was taking long rest periods in between sets and really realizing that my ability to make gains it lies in the last rep or two very frequently, certainly for compound lifts. And so if you can channel your focus to just give maximal effort for like 10 seconds per set, which is really just the last rep or two of a set, really channel like hot 10 seconds of pain tolerance, and all of your pain tolerance needs to be channeled into those 10 seconds. Then you can rest for 3 or 4 minutes, and you'll find that you're not dreading the workout because a lot of the time you're just resting. And that's the balance. It's not about just hard. It's about, let me rest so I can go hard. Let me rest so I can go hard. And when you can figure out that cadence, you'll find that weightlifting is a lot more fun frequently.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's a question, and we'll get back to more mistakes, but maybe we can quickly answer this. Do you concentrate on a body part each day, push-pull days, or something completely different?
It's kind of a combination between the two. So I don't do a ton of chest work anymore because I have a bad left shoulder from when I played baseball. My non-dominant shoulder just dislocated a couple times. It just doesn't move that well. So I'm not trying to load up several plates worth of weight and bench press on it. But I don't do full body lifts. So I'll do 2 lower body lifts per week. And then I'll do, 1 to 2 back, arms, and traps workouts. So you could say, push pull, like I'll do push-ups one day. And then like today I did pull. So yeah, I do, it would approximate to a bro split, like a push pull, breakdown.
For me, I usually do 2 leg, one day, just glutes. So it's a little bit lighter.
You do?
Yeah, for sure.
Why do you do that? Let's break that down. So why?
Well, so currently, I'm actually experimenting. I don't know if people know Brett I don't know how to say his last name. Booty Lab. Is that what it's called?
Don't ask me. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's Booty by Brett. So it's
really?
He's actually a great trainer, and I'm experimenting with his program. I've been wanting to experiment with it for a while, but finally got around to it. So I just started the program, I think like 2 weeks ago. And so it is very like lower body emphasized. So it's like a lot of deadlifting, squatting, and then he'll have like 2 optional glute days. So I'll do one of them. And it's just glutes. Honestly, I like it because glutes are actually one of those muscles that I find recover very quickly. So you can actually train it pretty often. I mean, assuming you're not like going to fatigue and like going crazy, but like if you do like 20 to 30 minutes of glutes, like it'll recover honestly by the end of the day. It's not like I'm torn from it. So I'll do 2 lower body, which are a lot more strenuous on my body, and then I'll do 1 glutes where I'm not like loading my spine or anything. and then I'll do 2 upper body. So
Do
I
you
have like
notice a
5.
difference mixing in a booty day to supplement the 2 compound lower body lift days that you do?
I think I do. Yeah. Like, cause like it trains a different range of motion. Like with squats and deadlifts, like it's very like linear.
Yeah.
Whereas like with the booty stuff, it's like, you're doing like clams and you're doing like all these different things to like train different parts of the glute. So like you're kind of getting the full, all the muscles around it versus like, so yeah, I find it useful, especially like adductors and abductors and like stuff like that, like the miscellaneous stuff that sometimes people forget about. Yeah.
So I guess before we jump into
Brett Contreras, great. Thanks for getting his name right. Okay, so we'll come back to the questions in a bit, but some of the other myths that you were talking about, Alex, earlier today, do you want to get into some of them?
Yeah, I think we'll have to go through our chat log to figure out. There's so
insufficient rest you talked about, rushing warm-ups.
Rushing warm-ups, yeah. So that's one thing that I've found, especially as I've gotten older, is that if I'm going to do, so my training plan that I've done for, to develop the physique that's plastered all over Twitter is based around 4 sets of 5 compound lifting. And so, 4 sets of 5 squats, 4 sets of 5 deadlifts, whatever the main movement is, 4 sets of 5. And, that works really well for some people, doesn't work well for other people, happens to work well for me. And so what I've found is with that program, it was originally designed to do the same amount of weight each set, about 80% of your 1 rep max each set. But I found that for my first set of 5, 80% felt a little bit heavy. And then my second set, 82% felt about the same as 80%. And then my third set, 84% kind of felt the same as 80 or 82%. And so for me, if I'm doing a compound lift, my strongest set will actually be my second or third set pushing, 80+% weight. And for a lot of younger people who, maybe haven't adopted functional warm-ups, you're wasting all your bullets before your body is like fully ready to exert itself. And once you get out of the more is better mindset, and you start to realize that quality is the only thing that really matters once your body's in shape, then you realize that, man, there's no point in me even training if I'm not properly warmed up, disregarding even the injury risk. Like, I need to put my body in a position where it's doing something that it couldn't do 2 weeks ago, or else I'm not going to develop. I'm not giving my body the stimulus it needs to change. And if I'm not resting sufficiently, if I'm not warming up sufficiently, how can I get better? I'm so close to my peak, ability as it is. Like, if I can't nail these recovery windows, and if I'm not warming up properly, there go my gains. See ya.
Yeah, for sure. Warming up is super important. I typically, I realized more recently, I haven't been warming up. I haven't had a need to warm up like for 30 minutes or something. My warm-ups are super quick now, but that's also because one of the things that I do is I walk throughout the day. So I'm constantly sort of moving. And so I don't feel, I'm never in a position where I feel like I'm starting from a cold start. If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Because I'm kind of moving throughout the day, and I'm like pretty active and pretty flexible and stuff. So my warm-ups are quite quick. So like the other alternative, if you don't want like a crazy elaborate workout, is just be active. Like, don't be like completely cold turkey, like sit for like hours and hours and hours, because that's when you get tight and you need like really, really long warm-ups. Yeah,
I found if I run in the morning, I'm loose for 6 to 8 hours after that. I'm good.
Exactly.
Go.
The other big thing, especially for introverted people, when I think I talked about this in the last stream too, but, I was a runner, and really like running is you're in your head. You're almost trying to not be in your body because it's painful. So you're trying to escape into your head. And with weightlifting, you need to be incredibly in your body and connected to your muscles. So one thing I notice in the gym often is like people will be lifting, unless you're going to a hardcore gym where there's like real like bros, like the one I'm going to now, they definitely have mind muscle. They definitely are not like fucking around. They have mind muscle connection for sure. But when you go to a generic commercial gym, like it boggles my mind how like they're not even paying attention to like the movement. They're not like really engaging. Their posture's off. They're on their phone. So like sometimes I wonder, like, are they even like in the workout, or are they like half in, half out kind of thing?
So I think it's a different mindset and a different mental approach because, if you'd seen me train for a good amount of the last several years, up until maybe a couple of years ago, the goal for me lifting weights was to lift the weight. And so if I moved the weight, I did it. And it's, it's not until you become a little bit older, you realize like, well, am I working my biceps instead of my lats because I'm doing the movement wrong? Like, am I putting, even though it doesn't hurt to do this, am I putting extra stress on my shoulder that I don't need to if I focused on doing the movement a little bit better? Can I get more hypertrophy out of my muscles if I slow the movement down or maybe do slightly less weight, but maintain my positioning for the entire time? And so most bros, don't get this until maybe they hit their 30s. Women, I think, tend to understand it a little bit faster, at least the ones who are consistently showing up and spending time in the resistance area. At most of the gyms that I've been to, the people who have the best form in the weight room are women who taught themselves on YouTube.
No, like women tend to have really good form compared to men. I noticed, especially if they're into it, right? Like if they're actually into it. I don't know what it is. I've noticed this since the very beginning too, I think. But like even for me, like I that focusing on like form and posture was not something that I was incentivized to do in tech, right? Like it's like you can get away with really sloppy posture and technique and everything and be successful. So for me, like realizing how poor my posture had gotten after working like 7 years in tech, like I had to reverse that, and I'm still kind of working on reversing that. And it's the way that I discovered that, because when you look in the mirror, you see what you want to see.
Sure.
Like that's one thing I learned. And the way I learned that was that I started recording myself, and I was just like, whoa, this looks way different than what I think I look like.
Oh yeah.
And then I was like, shit, I have so much to fix. I had all these like imbalances and especially with my left side. And like, even this year, it's something I've been really working on, but like recording yourself is a game changer in my opinion. Like it's
right. That's one thing that we didn't discuss before the show is now that everybody has a camera in their pocket, everybody should be filming their lifts. Because, for years, I thought I was moving symmetrically. I thought I was doing the lifts the way I was supposed to do because it felt normal, and I'm an athlete. And as an athlete, as a baseball player, you can't get too mental about your movements. Otherwise, you don't perform them properly. And that's true with a lot of hand-eye sports. Weightlifting is a little bit different. And so now I record most of the sets that I do because I want to make sure that I'm in alignment. And I want to make sure that I'm evening my imbalances rather than accentuating them. Yeah. And so, because imbalances will get worse over time, they will not get better unless you fix them.
Yeah, it's so true. And like, the hard thing, I still find it somewhat hard, and I'm still trying to find like the perfect solution, but I find it a pain in the ass to like record because I want to just kind of get in the gym and do my thing. Right. But like, but then when I record myself, I'm like, oh my God, like it's so revolutionary for me because like, I'm like, oh, I have so much to improve. So my workouts are better if I record myself basically because I know what to improve. So like, I'm trying to figure out like how to make this easier and quicker. So do you have any hacks?
To be honest, I don't like recording myself either. Okay. So to make it easier, I mean, it is pretty easy. It's like you literally press a button and you get a video. It's just the nuisance of it.
Yeah.
That you just want to do your set. You don't want to put a camera there and then grab it after your set. So like what I've found is I try to at least just get one set in for filming, and so realistically, like if you're doing something in an imbalanced way, one set, you're probably doing it in an imbalanced way. Why is my voice so scratchy? You're probably doing it in an imbalanced way, all your sets. And so, check it. If you see it on your first set, maybe you can check it again. If your first set's good, your second set's probably going to be good too, unless you're scaling weight and really pushing your upper limit. Yeah. I don't think Preethi is your girlfriend, unless
I'm just going to ignore that comment. But
should we do the Suhali if starting out is body weight?
That one. Okay. If starting out is body weight based exercise, all that is required. Yeah, there's you can start if that's all you have. I mean, you should start with that because like starting with something is better than nothing. But I think like unless you want to be a calisthenics athlete, then at some point you're gonna have to probably get some weights and start adding more resistance to it. You could if you go deep down the YouTube rabbit hole, you'll start to find a lot of more recent calisthenics athletes who've gotten pretty ripped just off of body weight. So there's ways to do it if that's all you have access to. Again, just depends on your goals, but I would say like if that's all you have, that's totally fine to get started.
I think for your first few months, and that could even extend longer than a few months if you start getting into the more sophisticated body weight movements. Because you're not strong enough to lift heavy weights your first few months. So your body is a sufficient starting weight to start with. When I first started working out, just doing body weight lunges for like 100 yards was challenging. So like if I loaded that up with weight, it would be hard. I shouldn't load it up with weight because body weight was challenging enough. Now doing body weight squats or lunges is like walking. So I need to load it up with weight to get that, superior effect. But if you're starting out, frankly, you're not going to be lifting that heavy weight anyway. So your body weight probably is okay to start with.
Yeah. And there's so many things on YouTube now where you can find like really cool exercises for body weight stuff. How many sets do you advise for squatting? I do 8 to 12 reps per set. I'm 43.
Let me take it. Yeah. So person dependent, would have to, I'd have to know how many days a week you're squatting. And so let me quote this on a weekly basis because some people squat multiple times per week. And then it would also depend on the type of squatting you're doing. Is it a near max effort conventional squat or a safety squat? Is the bar on your back? Is it a front squat? Is it a goblet squat? So I'll answer that assuming it's a conventional squat. If I were doing 8 to 12 reps of conventional squatting, I would do 3 to 4 sets of that per week. Because, realistically, and that's as a trained individual, right? So as a trained individual, if I'm doing 8 to 12 rep sets, I'm probably doing around 300 pounds. If I'm doing more than 40 repetitions of 300 pounds on my back per week, that's too many for me. Other people, maybe if they recover better than me, can do it. But, far beyond those 30 to 40, like near, very high effort reps on squatting, I'm not going to get a ton out of it. Some people can go in the 40 to 60 range, but, person dependent, I would say that assuming this is a conventional squat, see how 3 sets of that works, see how 4 sets of that works. See how your body changes week over week. Sometimes as people get older, they don't need to squat as much. You could even squat every other week. And then if it's a goblet squat or a lighter squat, where you're not pushing yourself to near failure, then you have a lot more leeway where you can do more sets of that. But the metabolic impact of it is likely going to be lower because you're not forcing that much of a muscular or neurological adaptation.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Hopefully that's helpful. One other thing that I do want to, one other mistake that I want to talk about was switching goals or switching programs too often. and this is especially true now that we have Instagram and where fitness people, there's just like millions and hundreds of fitness people who have like all their different programs and offer different things. And everyone has like this really cool body. So you think doing that will work for that body. And then you switch programs. I mean, I was honestly one of these people in the early days where I was kind of like doing this program and doing this program and doing this program. And then like ultimately I realized like, okay, I have to take a step back and understand, like figure out like, well, what are my fitness goals, and like design a program for myself. Like there's no harm in trying different people's programs, especially if they're like your role models in fitness or something, like, and you really like sort of how they move and their body composition and so forth. But I feel that like it can, I've noticed that there's just people who literally will switch programs like every 4 weeks or something because they get bored of it. And I think like that's not a great way to go about it, because you might find working out, I guess, more novel and fun because you're switching workouts so many times, but like there's no progression there. Yeah. Right? Like you're not like progressing over the course of a year towards something, or 2 years or 3 years towards something. Whereas like having that like very like simple vanilla workout, but you're actually making progress week over week, month over month. I find that more rewarding personally, and less to think about. That's not to say that you don't want to have times and days where you challenge your body by doing something totally different. I think that's totally important. But doing that every single day, where you try a new type of workout every single day, I'm not sure you're getting anywhere with that.
Yeah, and people. So from a marketing standpoint, novelty sells. People are always looking for that secret new workout that's going to make them, ripped, which is what I sell. But people are looking for that.
Yeah.
And the reality is, and I've run this offer. I have an open offer. If anybody on the stream qualifies, DM me and I will send you the $100 that I've had out for like 18 months on Twitter. And that offer, and realistically, it's probably only gonna be men who are going to apply for it, because what it said was, if you can parallel squat 315 pounds and run a 6-minute mile, I will pay you $100 if you're over 12% caliper body fat. And so those numbers are obviously all oriented towards men, but people really underestimate the aesthetic value of being an athlete. And they think because trainers, they bring up a lot of bullshit, and they'll try to convince you that, oh, this new thing is the next big thing. And realistically, if the new thing isn't allowing you to lift heavier weights or run faster, it's unlikely that you're going to have like dramatic physique changes.
Yeah.
And if you can lift weights and run faster, if you can run a 6-minute mile, and if you can parallel squat 315 pounds, like you're going to be pretty ripped. And if you're not, you're probably in the NFL and force feeding yourself like 6,000 calories a day. So try it.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I want to mention about kind of switching programs all the time is what I found is realistically learning a new movement set. It takes a couple of weeks, like to really perfect your form, your posture, everything, right? Like, so if you're trying something new every single day, I'm assuming you're not really like maxing out on those movements at all, because you're just like learning these new movements. This is also why I don't really like random fitness classes, because like you kind of just like move around, and yeah, maybe you're burning some calories, and that's good for someone who's like totally couch potato and needs some movement, but that's not really any kind of meaningful progression on anything. You're kind of just moving for the sake of moving, which is totally fine. If you have fun doing that, go for it. But if you want to make progress and have like goals, I would say stick to one program for months or years and see what it does for you.
Yeah. And obviously there is benefit from changing things, right? Like so muscle confusion, and how basically it's what trainers say. People say it's bullshit. I mean, so I'm going to disregard the fact that the muscle doesn't have a brain. And I'm just going to discuss this from a functional standpoint. So we're not going to get into science for can muscles get confused, because they can't. But switching up your workout every few weeks. If you're working with a trainer who really, really, really knows what he or she is doing, then it's probably okay, because there's a reason why you're changing certain things. There's a reason why you're switching out from quad dominant work to hamstring dominant work. Maybe your knees are sore, and in order to continue to train at the level that you're training, you're wanting to develop your posterior chain a little bit better. You can't handle, your joints are not going to handle those heavy weights in quad dominant workouts week after week after week. So you have to cycle in different things. Most trainers are not that sophisticated. Most trainers are changing your workouts so they can charge you more money and like come off as intelligent. There is not any sort of sophisticated reason for why they're having you do something different this week compared to a few weeks ago. So as is commonly the case, the devil's in the details. If you're changing up your workout for a reason and the person can explain it to you in like basic words and has delivered results for other people, probably okay. If the person can't, probably get a new trainer.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And like, it's not to say that your workouts have to be super boring either. Like, it's not like you're only doing like 3 exercises a day in a week or something, like deadlift, squat, and something else. Because like realistically, I've found that, for example, if I want to improve my deadlift, if I want to improve my squat, doing ancillary work around that, like doing different kinds of exercises to kind of strengthen different parts of my body, like really help. And even I don't have to just deadlift to improve my deadlift, is basically what I'm trying to say. Or I don't have to just squat to improve my squat. Right. Strengthening my core or strengthening my feet. My feet were a huge weakness for me in my squats and deadlifts when I first started. My ankles and feet, they were quite wobbly, and so there were days where I would just
Wait, so you're interesting.
Yeah, and so I realized like that was a big weakness for me. I could go heavier, but like, what's the point if my knee, I think like my knee tibialis and ankles were wobbly. So then like I still to this day I train my tibialis, I train my my ankles, my calves. I train that part of my legs a lot just to keep strengthening that part. And that helps my squat a lot. I can lift a lot heavier because of that.
Is that from wearing heels?
That's from wearing shoes all the time. And a big change that I made recently is doing basically everything barefoot.
Yeah.
Or as close to barefoot as possible.
I do that too when I'm in cool gyms, the uncivilized cool gyms.
Yeah,
all the best gyms have the cheapest entry fee, by the way. The local one to you? The one? Yeah. Like $5.
Yeah, it's training barefoot, I would say has been a game changer for me this year. And it just feels good too. You feel so connected to the ground, and it's just different. I can't even wear shoes anymore. It's awful.
Yeah, I don't like wearing shirts either. So I do my best to find gyms that accommodate that request. Some do, some don't. Well, if other questions that maybe are a little bit more sophisticated than solicitations for Preethi, we can get to those.
Let's talk about something besides me. The other mistake I would say that I spent a lot of time doing was not getting enough sleep, which we talked about last time. Like there's no point in working out if you're not going to get enough sleep because you're just not recovering. I probably wasted a year and a half doing this.
You should convince yourself that sleep is steroids, because it is. You produce human growth hormone when you sleep. So the more you can sleep, the stronger you're going to be, provided that you use that sleep to go train hard, and your body's going to be better. So sleeping is a very good thing. If you can do it, do it.
Yeah.
More of it.
Yeah. And like the more I learn about sleep, I'm realizing how much of an epidemic there is in America of people who just like, even if they want to sleep 8 hours a day, they actually can't because they have sleep apnea or they have insomnia and stuff. So if you have these issues, I would say like, before focusing on like working out or getting fit, I would focus on fixing your sleep, because not only is that going to have effect on like your workouts, but in your entire life. Like if you don't get enough sleep, you're just like slowly destroying your own body.
Yeah.
Tips on improving sleep hygiene. I would say a big change that I made recently was taking magnesium. That was huge. So I take magnesium every day, and that made a night and day difference for me. I sleep deeper, I dream, all that good stuff. And recently I tried magnesium spray because I was taking the pills, the supplement tablets. I tried spray, and spray works even faster, actually. It works better too. So that's one thing. The other thing I've actually been trying is, so these look so weird and nerdy, but there's these like safety glasses. I don't know if you can see. I bought them on Amazon I bought them on Amazon for like $15, and I wear them like an hour before I go to bed.
Yeah.
But I promise you, it makes a huge difference. Because like if I am just on my computer or phone or something without the glasses on, I could stay up till like 1:00 and not be sleepy. The minute I put the glasses on, within like 20, 30 minutes, I can hear myself yawning and stuff and feel that sense of like wanting to sleep because like I'm not getting any blue light. So it makes a huge, huge difference. Other things I would say are not eating too close to bed. That's a huge thing because otherwise your body's digesting food and probably doesn't want to sleep. What else? Any other?
So I could probably speak to this because I had and do have issues sleeping well, just, genetically. I always wonder when I was a little kid, why can't my dad sleep well? But I inherited that from him. So one thing that is not good is alcohol. I found, because my dad's dad used to have like a shot of whiskey before he'd go to bed. We're like, well, whatever, grandpa's just having, that's fine. Because it's one, it's like not going to kill you. So, when I realized, in my early 20s, like, oh yeah, I have a couple glasses of wine, like wind down, pass out, feel much better than not sleeping. But inevitably you become attenuated to that. And then 2 turns to 3, turns to 4. And then you start like having to drink yourself to sleep, which is not a healthy thing. And so one of the big transition that I made was actually switching to cannabis edibles. And, sometimes I post about this. I'm very honest about it because I think it's one of the biggest improvements that I've really made in my life from a fitness, from a health, from a mental health standpoint, from a cognitive function standpoint is once I started, and we don't know about the long-term effects, but, the issue for me was bad enough to where it necessitated, a solution. And I'll deal with the long-term consequences when I deal with them. But, since I started taking edibles to sleep, and I prefer those because I run and I don't want my lungs to be compromised from, any sort of cannabis consumption. But once I started taking those, my sleep was deeper, my workouts were better, and I could think so much more clearly at work the following day. So, and this is probably true for like hyper type A individuals. A lot of people and a lot of accomplished people will say that, weed's not good for you. And if you're not a type A person, it probably isn't good for you. You probably don't have any good reason for having it. But there's a lot of successful people who consume marijuana very, very commonly. And, maybe they're not all public about it yet. But I mean, the richest man in the world smoked a joint with Joe Rogan. And, a lot of really successful people use cannabis to their benefit. And so, I'm not going to tell you to do something illegal, but for years I avoided it because I heard that, it lowers your testosterone, blah, blah, blah. And maybe it does. My testosterone's average. It's, despite the fact that I can, deadlift over 500 pounds, I could bench press over 300 pounds when I benched, squat over 400 pounds. My testosterone level is like right in the middle for a male of my age. And it could be because of the cannabis consumption that I use to sleep. But, everything has a cost and everything has a benefit. And if you think that the benefit outweighs the cost, you might want to try it.
Yeah. CBD also helps. I know a lot of people claim that CBD really helps with sleep. So if you don't want to feel like the psychoactive effects of cannabis, you can try CBD. I don't really smoke weed, so I haven't really tried that approach. But
you haven't?
No, I don't.
What?
Yeah, I don't smoke weed.
Californian or what?
Yeah, I know. I'm a weird Californian. I found it really weird when I'm actually not native, so it makes sense. I'm from Jersey, where we drink, but we don't smoke. I mean, now they smoke more, but yeah. The other big thing, like the obvious things, right? Like sleep. Try to sleep around the same time every day. Don't stay up past midnight and stuff because you're just going to throw off your circadian rhythm. And
Exercise.
like exercise really helps because you're tired and you're actually like you can fall asleep more. And like try to figure out like if you have like sleep apnea and stuff, like, and if you're like mouth breathing or something's causing you to wake up during the night, figure out how to fix that issue. There's so many things that you can do. I think this is like a topic on its own. And luckily, there's a lot more research and books on this now. So I'd highly recommend like reading some books on sleep because it's so important.
Glass really helped. Pills and potions didn't help me. I wonder if that's the alcohol glass or the blue light glasses.
I have no idea. Yeah, the filter on grayscale. Yeah, it's so effective. I honestly, so I read this on some dude's like blog post. He has this like really cool blog post. Actually, maybe I can share it in this chat while I talk. So he mentioned it and I honestly didn't believe it. I was like, this is the most retarded thing I've seen. Like, I don't think this makes a difference. And then like, I was like, you know what? I have nothing to lose. And then I tried it and it makes such a difference. Again, I'm really promoting. It's literally $15. Still worth it.
What else should we cover on lifting? Use your lifts to score your diet. Right?
What does that mean?
What does
that mean, score your diet? So
a lot of times people don't know if they're eating the right amount of food. And the reality is your lifts will tell you if you're eating the right amount of food. If the same weight feels heavier week after week, you're doing something wrong. And if the same weight feels lighter week after week, you're doing something right. And so if it feels heavier week after week, it means your recovery's not matching what the stimulus you're putting on your body is. And if the weight feels lighter every week, probably doing a decent job of recovering, and your food consumption, your sleep consumption is probably optimal. So pay attention. Use both aspects to score each other. Use your training to score your diet. You can't really use your diet to score your training, but there's a feedback between the two. And the more you can understand the relationship between both of them, the more you can optimize things. And at the end of the day, fitness is a compound game. And if you can gain 1% per month, like we talked about earlier, compared to somebody who's doing 0.5% a month or 0.25% a month, by the end of 4 years, you're going to have something impressive compared to somebody who doesn't make those 1% gains every month. Yeah,
I totally agree. And I think oftentimes people underestimate how much of a difference eating can make. Yeah. And I remember when people would, this is like, it's one of those things, it's one of those advices that you hear so often that you almost like, it goes through 1 year and goes out the other. You know what I mean? Like, do you ever have those things where like people say it so often that you almost like you discard it because it's just like, I don't know. At least that's what I did. For the first like year or so of my training, I was not eating well. And like, it was just such a waste of time. In hindsight, I would go back and be like, you need to eat like properly.
Yeah. This is something that Alexander and I agree on. And I don't know, where you sit, but people say the diet is the most important aspect of your results. And so the first thing that they try to change is your diet. And I don't think that, while I don't dispute that the importance of diet, I actually think that people should start training before they fix their diet, because that's the only way that they're going to realize how much their bad diet's holding them back.
Yeah.
Right. Once you realize that your workout, your really hard workout that you did on Wednesday is actually not that hard. If you eat and drink a certain amount of water and sleep a certain amount, then you become more incentivized to do those things. Whereas if a trainer just says, hey, you need to sleep this much, you need to eat this much, drink this much water, you'll find a reason not to do it. So once you can connect the dots between doing these things and the hard thing feels easier, you're more likely to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say like with diet, a big thing I've noticed is people are really, really bad at estimating the macros and how much protein they're consuming, how much carbs they're consuming, how many calories they're consuming. Not that you need to count calories, but like they're just really bad at actually understanding and estimating how much of these macros are in each of these food. So I would say like a big mistake that I made was not like being measured about that and like
So what were your mistakes? Because I'm like, borderline autism spectrum, where I can look at something, I feel pretty good about my ability to estimate it, and I can like recite what the listed protein macros are for a lot of different foods, and I can like give you shortcuts to figure out like this is approximately how many grams of protein's in that.
Yeah, it was not that like I didn't understand food and nutrition. It was more just like I had this like weird habit neurosis where I would like overestimate everything because like it came from my earlier childhood stuff where I was trying to like count calories, and so like I would try to overestimate just because I want to be like over conservative on this.
Right.
And so like, and then I realized like, that thing doesn't have like X number of protein or X amount of fat or X amount of carbs. It actually has way less. So like, that was a big discovery for me. Then that's when I realized like I was eating way too little, had to increase my intake. And, especially when it came to carbs, I would overestimate carbs a lot. Like I thought like this little thing of rice was like, 40 grams of carbs or something, but like really a cup of rice is like 40 grams of carbs. So just like, and honestly, it doesn't take that long. If you just like really get calculated about it for like 2 weeks, then it just becomes intuition. Like you don't need to calculate that anymore. So like spending investing that 2 weeks to like get maybe a scale, or just get really good at reading nutrition labels will really pay off in the long run.
Yeah. Should we hammer a couple questions before we wrap it up?
Does checking heart rate during lifting matter, or is there a target heart rate for lifting?
Yeah, I mean, I have done a heart rate measurement for a little bit. I stopped because I didn't think that it was that big of a deal. I rest sufficiently in between sets. And so because I've been doing it for a long enough time, I can feel when my body's ready for my next set. I don't need a timer to tell me, and I don't need a heart rate to tell me. For those who maybe lack that degree of bodily awareness, there could be a benefit to it, but I've gotten 99% of the way to where I am now without really monitoring my heart rate at all.
Yeah, I second that. I don't check my heart rate at all during lifting. Ever done any unilateral movements, split squats, reverse lunges? Do you think they're worth it? Oh yeah, these are 100% worth it. Like you should definitely be incorporating these because honestly, those kind of test your athletic abilities. If you can just move in one direction, like that's not very athletic. In my opinion, it's very one dimensional. Because there's a person there can be people who can squat like hundreds of pounds, but then like get them to lunge and they can't fucking do it. And that to me, that's just like, that's a shame, right? Like you can't actually like lunging is like the most basic thing you should be able to do as a human. In my opinion, I think every human should be able to lunge, at least body weight, if not like weighted. Because like lunging is basically like a harder version of like walking or running, in my opinion. And so, yeah, you should definitely be incorporating those. Reverse lunges are great. Like lunges in all directions, front, like side, reverse, everything.
Agreed. Everything Preethi said, I agree with.
Yeah. Cool. I think that was almost an hour. So if anyone has any more questions, you have 1 more second. Otherwise, we're going to end this.
Thanks for tuning in, folks.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully this was helpful.
Yeah, let us know. See you guys.
Bye.